Hello, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because honestly, we're about to go on an incredible adventure together. We are officially calling all future great inventors. And yes, if you're listening right now, that means you. Have you ever been outside, maybe just walking down the sidewalk, and you stopped to look at a perfectly ordinary bug? Or maybe you were staring at a dripping faucet in your kitchen and thought, why exactly does it do that? Well, today we're going to discover how those tiny, everyday moments, just looking closely at perfectly normal things, can literally change human history. We're going to see how your own simple curiosity is actually a real-life superpower.
So let me ask you something. Where do you think world-changing inventions actually come from? Do you think incredible breakthroughs only happen in giant secret laboratories? You know, the ones filled with bubbling potions, billion-dollar lasers, and people in fancy white coats. It's really easy to think that way. But actually, scratch that. The truth is so much more exciting. The real answer might be hiding right in your own home. It could be deep inside your kitchen sink, under a random rock at your local park, or just sitting right there in your backyard.
Because here is the ultimate, incredibly powerful secret of science. Great breakthroughs sometimes begin with really small observations. You don't need a massive laboratory or some fancy degree to be a scientist. Simply looking closely at perfectly ordinary things, that is the true superpower of an inventor. It's all about just paying quiet, careful attention to the amazing world happening right around you.
Let's dive into Section 1, The Accidental Adventure, Alexander Fleming's Moldy Discovery.
Okay, so let's travel way back in time to the year 1928 for an adventure that all starts with a mistake. A completely brilliant, messy mistake. Imagine this for a second. You're doing some science experiments at home, having fun, but then you go away on a really long summer vacation. And oops, you completely forget to clean up your room. When you finally come back, you look at your experiment dishes and yuck. There is this strange, fuzzy green and white mold growing all over them. It looks totally disgusting. So ask yourself right now, what would you actually do if you found an old, super gross, moldy dish just sitting there on your desk?
Well, normally, if you saw that gross mold, you'd probably yell, "Ew," and just chuck it straight into the trash, right? I know I probably would. But a Scottish doctor named Alexander Fleming didn't do that. Instead of getting mad about his failure, he paused. He looked really closely. He noticed something almost magical happening right in the middle of that mess. Right around the fuzzy mold, all the harmful bacteria he had been studying had just mysteriously disappeared. The mold was actually fighting them off. In a single instant, his messy failure turned into the greatest treasure hunt of his life.
First, instead of ignoring the mess, he just stopped to notice the mold. That sparked his curiosity, so he decided to dive in and do some research. He wanted to figure out exactly what kind of invisible juice this mold was making to destroy those bacteria. And, that gentle curiosity led directly to a literal miracle, the discovery of penicillin, an incredible medicine that fights off dangerous infections in our bodies.
Before penicillin, things were pretty scary. People could get incredibly sick or even die from just a tiny little scratch if bacteria got inside. Doctors really couldn't stop the bacteria from spreading. But because Alexander Fleming paid attention to a simple, messy mistake in his lab, he discovered a medicine that completely changed the world. Penicillin has literally saved millions and millions of lives. And all because he just looked closely at some ordinary fuzzy mold. How wild is that?
All right, moving on to Section 2, The Quest to Fly, Learning from the Birds.
Have you ever looked up at the sky, watched a bird soaring freely through the clouds and thought, man, I wish I could do that? Well, for hundreds of years, humans went on this grand quest to finally figure out how we could fly. And guess who our absolute best teachers were? The birds themselves. It's amazing how history's greatest minds all shared this exact same habit. Hundreds of years ago, the famous artist Leonardo da Vinci would just sit outside for hours sketching the movements of birds. Later on, in Japan, an inventor named Nanomiya Chuhachi carefully watched crows flying at his local park, just marveling at how they could glide so beautifully without even flapping. And eventually, the Wright brothers in America took all this observation even further, spending so much time just studying the exact angles of a soaring bird's wings. The Wright brothers realized this brilliant secret that was just hiding right there in plain sight. Birds don't just flap their wings wildly to fly. They carefully change the angle of their wingtips to steer and keep their balance in the rushing wind. Actually, try it right now wherever you are. Seriously, put your arms out wide like wings and tilt your hands up and down. See? The Wright brothers didn't just try to build some huge, heavy engine. They completely copied nature. They applied this exact same idea of tilting wing angles to their flying machines so they could balance perfectly in the air without crashing.
And all that patient watching led up to one magical, unforgettable moment. The year was 1903. The wind was blowing. By copying the brilliant design of those birds, Wilbur and Orville Wright finally succeeded. They flew the world's very first engine-powered airplane. They proved to everyone that nature basically holds the absolute best blueprints. If we ever want to build something amazing, we just have to step outside and see how nature has already solved the problem.
Just think about the massive airplanes we travel in today, flying way high up above the clouds, carrying us safely and quickly across the globe. They definitely didn't start out as huge, complicated machines. The entire history of human flight began with just a few curious people standing in a field or a park, quietly watching the birds in the sky.
Now for my favorite part, Section 3. Your turn. Become a great inventor.
So we've talked about fuzzy mold and we've talked about gliding crows. Now it's the most exciting time. It is your turn to become a great inventor. Because throughout all of human history, it's always been these really small discoveries that create massive changes. Someone figured out how to control fire, and that small discovery built whole civilizations. Someone invented a simple way to print letters, and suddenly knowledge spread like wildfire to everyone. Someone observed simple sparks and lightning, and now electricity powers our entire daily lives. Even today, right now, scientists are still looking at simple plants, everyday animals, and the human body to invent new tech. And the best part? You don't need a fancy degree to join them.
The recipe to becoming an inventor is actually incredibly simple. Anyone can do it. First, it's careful observation, using your eyes and ears to really truly notice the little things around you. Second, asking simple questions about what you just saw. And if you do those two things, the final step is almost inevitable. An amazing breakthrough. Just taking a simple, quiet look at the world around you is literally the bridge to massive, world-changing ideas. So here are some really fun, super easy observation missions that you can actually try today, right in your house or outside. Go to your local park and just watch the pigeons or crows flying exactly like Nina Mia did. Really look at their feathers. Or try examining perfectly ordinary things right inside your house. Watch how a drop of water hangs from the sink faucet right before it falls. Or look really closely at how a solid piece of ice slowly melts into a little puddle in your drinking glass. Your mission is to pick something totally normal, pretend you are seeing it for the very first time in your entire life, and just think deeply about it. And when you're looking at these everyday wonders, I want you to use 3 magic keys. Whenever you notice something cool, ask yourself these 3 questions. Why does this happen? How does this work? And what can we learn from this? They might seem like super small, almost too simple questions at first. But when Alexander Fleming and the Wright brothers asked these exact same questions, it unlocked the door to miracles.
I really want you to remember this powerful truth. Every single person has the power to notice something new. You don't need to be famous. You definitely don't even need to be a grown-up. You just need to be curious. If you can open your eyes wide and just wonder why, you are already thinking exactly like a world-class scientist. So, as we wrap up our little adventure today, I want to leave you with one final exciting challenge. What small discovery will you make today that could actually change the future? Step outside, put on your inventor's hat, look closely at this wonderful, perfectly ordinary world around you, and go find an everyday mystery. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy inventing!